Genetic testing market has grown at over 50% a year to reach rupees 400 to 500 crores in India. It is nothing when compared to its potential and growth in countries like the US or even the India's routine diagnostics market worth rupees 40,000 crores. Of the 26 million born in the country every year, at least a million are both born with genetic diseases and most go undetected. So today on our healthcare startup series, we have one such startup with us who's working in this particular field. Hello, I'm Smita Kumar and you're watching Medicircle. As you might have been knowing for all such days that we are interviewing healthcare entrepreneurs on our startup or healthcare startup awareness series where we need to know what to know more about them and definitely the important work, the products and the offerings that they are offering for people like us. So today, most welcome Dr. Manoj Gopalkrishnan, who is the co-founder of Algorithmic Biologics. It's a Bengaluru-based deep tech startup and it's building algorithms for molecular programming. Its technology works like a compression of algorithm for molecular testing and has applications in healthcare, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, animal husbandry, food safety, synthetic biology, and also molecular biology research. So let us know more from it then. Hi, Dr. Manoj. Welcome to Medicircle.
Yeah, hi, Smita. Thank you for having me on Medicircle. Very excited to be here.
Same here, especially when this is something very complicating like molecular testing. As we know that there are so many people, we just mentioned the figures. There are so many people in India who go undetected and they also, as undetected, definitely the treatment, the diagnosis is done at such a later stages that it's very difficult to back to their original states and it's not such patients and the volume is too much. So how algorithm biologics is actually trying to solve this problem? Tell us more about your biotech startup.
Yeah, Smita, we are all used to saying that health is wealth, and the wealth of health, to unlock it, you need to go to the molecular scale because that is where information lies that can help a doctor decide on course of treatment. So molecules have great wealth for health, but molecules also have great wealth for many other industries. Even healthcare and pharma, we are aware of it, but even many other industries, even manufacturing these days, there is great wealth in molecular information. And there are many technologies that are sort of mining this information. Diagnostics is the example we are most familiar with, but food safety is another, for example, right? How do you mine? Or drug discovery, how do you get information about which is a drug molecule that is going to act in the body like you would want it to? So to mine this molecular information, there are all these technologies already existing. We come in as a scale multiplier on top of these technologies. So we bring scale efficiencies to diagnostics and discovery pipelines that are already existing. So all kinds of labs that are already doing this kind of testing, using our algorithm, they are able to bring about savings. They are able to do the same work in 20% of the cost, much faster, and using the same resources without buying new machines. So no new capital investment needed, but throughputs are improved and they are able to become much more productive. So we are trying to unlock this wealth at the molecular scale so that we are able to serve health and good health and wellness to everybody.
So cost is definitely a big factor when we consider especially genetic testing. Like in the India genetic testing market was valued at $60.78 million in 2022 and is further anticipated to grow at a CAGR of 6.94% during the forecast period owing to rising patients of chronic and genetic diseases and also the increasing technological advancements. So, Manoj, there has been patients with all these chronic diseases all so many years. But yes, now we are seeing a positive change in more and more diagnostic and genetic testing, thanks to startups like you, who's making that they are making it easier, easily available, and most importantly, easily affordable. So, tell us more about your product, Extra Illness, and what changes it is bringing into this market.
Yeah. So our product, as you mentioned, is called Tapestry. What is unique about it is that it is software living on the cloud. There is some engagement with the lab. We provide them solutioning, but the majority of the product is software living on the cloud. And this makes us very scalable as a solution. And what we do is we help labs do the solutioning required so that if they have a large number of samples to test, they are able to pool those samples into a small number of pools, test those pools, but still recover individual and quantitative information for every sample. And this algorithm underlying this is something that we have developed. We have patents on it, and we are able to deploy this algorithm in multiple different use cases. Starting from testing for COVID, which is where we started, but also in newborn screening, also in pharma, drug discovery kind of situations. In many different blood bank screening, we are able to use the same algorithm, the same software, time and again in many different fields, which is what is unique about what we are doing.
So tell us how many lives you have touched so far?
So we are still a fairly young startup. We are only 18 months old. And we got the opportunity to serve the community through COVID times. And through COVID times, we have been part of some partnerships for campus screening, including with Department of Science and Technology's Campus Rakshak program. And so we have been screening some campuses for COVID. And so through that, we have got a chance to touch, tens of thousands of lives. In addition to that, we are definitely looking at many other use cases, which if those use cases, are successful, could completely change the way that we're looking at the world. For example, newborn screening. You won't believe this, but there is 25,000 newborns in India are suffering from, mortality or lifelong morbidity every year because of completely preventable conditions. Called inborn errors of metabolism. These conditions can easily be prevented with a screening test at birth, which is already happening mandatorily in countries like US and UK. But in India, only about 2% of newborns are getting this. Our doctors have recognized this. The leading medical bodies in the country have said this should be mandatory. State governments have recognized this. A couple of state governments have started doing this in an initial way. So Kerala and Madhya Pradesh, for example. Other state governments want to do this, but cost is locking them out of the market. We are trying to build something that will bring the cost down. And if that happens, then that number can flip from 2% to 100% with every state deploying this. And so that will impact every newborn born in the country. So the scale at which these kind of public health interventions or drug discovery interventions can touch the world is something that's personally for me very inspiring and gives me hope that we can make a big impact on the world.
Definitely.
Thank you for asking the question. I think it's a very important question that every founder should also ask themselves.
Definitely. Because see, around 3 to 4% of newborns in India are affected by a genetic condition. And there is this NBS index also, iGenomics index, that identifies these genetic disorders in newborn babies. Newborn babies screening, now it is mandatory being made, that public health program definitely, which is coming from the Indian government. They are providing all such screenings, but definitely we need to work on this availability thing also and affordability thing also, because genetic tests are definitely much more expensive. There are so many newborn screening tests which should be done, because there are so many diseases that can be screened at birth, and we can prevent and we can check that these things are happening, and then the next course of the treatment and other things, because we are already diagnosed such kind of a thing. Many such diseases which are found in newborn babies are like sickle cell diseases there, then maple syrup urine diseases there, congenital adrenal diseases there. So there are so many such diseases which can actually take help of such startups and find through these algorithms and actually help India with more and more healthier babies, because definitely the diagnosis is on earlier stage, treatment would also follow in that same pace. So Manoj, you also have raised an undisclosed seed round from Maxilla Labs. So would you like to share the amount and also how these funds are being utilized?
Yeah, so I'm not at liberty to share the amount, but I can definitely share that the money is going towards building more IP, because a strong IP portfolio is the foundation for a good deep tech startup. And we strongly believe in this. And so we have been filing many patents, and then we have been sort of consolidating the, algorithmics and all the innovation that has to go in before we can have a differentiated and protectable offering. So yeah, so that is where the money has been going mostly. And the idea for those of you, who are maybe not from the entrepreneurial world and hearing this, the important thing for a company, right, to be able to serve people at scale is to do it sustainably. So it is very important for us to make money. And this is something that, coming from academia, for me, it has been also a bit of a learning. And some of these technologies, right? So we are on the cusp of ideas that have been there, and then we have taken it forward with our innovation. But the ideas that were there were also not being applied to the extent that was possible. So, they were not being applied because nobody was championing them. Nobody was providing the service required to make them usable. If somebody had to use them, they had to start from scratch. Yes. Whereas what we are doing is we are giving the end-to-end solutioning for it, so that it's just as easy as opening a Pepsi bottle and drinking, right? So we make it that simple for the lab to actually execute all of this. And to carry that out, one needs to sort of build a company. And so the money has gone to sort of building the foundation stones in some way for that company.
Yes, that's a good differentiator. Startups like you are offering. Also, let us know what are your goals and future expansion plans.
Yeah. Again, so we are following the playbook of deep tech startups that have gone before us, companies like Illumina, companies like 10x Genomics. And the way that we see this is diagnostics is definitely a big market. We see some very exciting possibilities in diagnostics and even public health screening kind of situations to make a big impact. We see a big possibility in pharma with drug discovery, where we are in some initial conversations. We are also seeing some very exciting, sort of opportunities in the world of discovery, sort of fundamental biology and research, where we are partnering with researchers to help them advance the frontiers of science. Our technology is coming in to help them advance the frontiers of science. This keeps us on our feet from a scientific perspective, but it is also has the potential to unlock a big market if a field adopts the technology piecemeal and then everybody in the field starts to do those experiments. It unlocks an entire market for us.
Definitely. And any such piece of learning that you would like to share with us today?
Sure. So, yeah. So, for example, one learning for us has been the impact of this kind of technology for public health screenings. So, a lot of screenings that are just not happening today, but should be happening, right? So, unlocking that. So, newborn screening is a perfect example, but also, tuberculosis screening programs, which the government has been talking about. There are some population level genetic screening that some countries have been talking about. And a lot of these are not happening. And the only reason is that the cost benefit analysis is not working out. And if the cost is brought down in some way, right, without affecting the validity of results, that's just going to be a game changer. And so that's kind of where we are plugging in.
Sure. So when we talk about public scanning, genetic scanning, then again, there are a lot of things, especially with the security of data, also availability and affordability are quite some challenges. But from this, government perspective, again, there are so many such initiatives which are going on, which is actually making this initiative more and more stronger, that these genetic diseases can be diagnosed on in very early stages. So how has been your experience overall, because it's still a very new domain and there are quite few startups who are working on this. So how has been the experience been in terms of patients' feedback?
So we are still in fairly early stages there. We are still at pilot stages for some of those kind of situations, for the genomic testing situation. But we have some very strong industry partners who have put their faith in our technology, and we are working on a couple of projects which have very high potential for impact. Right, the number of lives they can touch is quite something, and how it can affect is also quite something. So some of those are under wraps. I'm not completely at liberty to talk about them, but yeah, I mean, that's it's been good. Both the Indian ecosystem has matured to an extent where companies like ours are finding partners easily, but also internationally there has been interest. Internationally, there have been people willing to talk with us and then explore what our technology can do for their pipelines. So overall, yeah, I think the timing has been kind of very encouraging for us.
Definitely. And if these government programs can actually quickly generate a baseline data for this Indian human genome and also make that public, because if this is the data is available, it becomes much more accurate and efficient for so many companies to arrive at a diagnosis that is faster. Another important area or sector that we feel that this government support can be happen in the such case, like they can create guidelines and also policies around genetic testing and also application of genomics that is driving the clinical practices. So what's your take on that?
So I was at a conference recently where this was called the International Congress for Antibiotic Microbial Resistance. And I got the chance to talk with some infectious disease specialists. And what kind of came across is that in the community of clinicians, especially infectious disease, orthopedics, and so on, there is a frontier emerging of clinicians who are relying more and more on genetic testing. And they are finding some advantages to genetic testing over their traditional assays, including over assays like culture and so on, which was surprising to me given the higher cost that we usually think about when we talk about clinical testing and so on. So definitely it seems more and more that sequencing is becoming kind of a very a very baseline kind of test from being perceived as an outlier and so on. So I think sequencing, NGS, and broadly the multiomics built around NGS, all of those are going to become more and more mainstream, and they are going to become more and more standard ways to interrogate what is happening, inside cells, tissues, and bodies. So definitely, I think that is happening, and we are excited about it because we have already been working in those directions. We already have tested out some of our methods in those directions and found very promising results, and some very interesting partnerships in the works, which I hope to be able to announce in a couple of months or so.
That's great to know. So overall, genetic testing in India has developed in leaps and bounds in the past decade. Currently, there exists DNA-based tests that addresses multiple concerns in healthcare, from disease prevention to molecular diagnosis. So we are definitely experiencing a good change. The growing awareness and the demand for the personalized medicines and also the treatment to ensure quality treatment and that has witnessed improvised results, it is expected to definitely pave the way for more and more genetic testing and the growth of this segment. Advancements of technological applications, as Dr. Manoj was talking about, that it is very, very needed. It is in the field of genetic testing. It's expected definitely to create lucrative opportunities for market growth in the next 5 years and paving the way for early diagnosis, early treatment, and thus a healthier India. Thank you so much, Dr. Manoj, for joining us today at Medicircle Healthcare Startup Series. We wish you all the best and also your startup, Algorithmic Biologics, for all the best for all its future endeavors.
Thank you, Smita. Pleasure to be here.